All right, this is conversation 2, and we are now on week 3 because this class is meant to be a makeup lecture. So you are logging in and doing this on the weekend because last weekend, in fact, was the designated day, but we are delayed a little bit. So you need to log in and watch this lecture and get credit for your cyber lecture by Sunday night at midnight. Okay, so this has already been explained. We'll just get right into it. We're on week 3, as I said, so this means chapter 2 from the textbook. The textbook is takeaway 3, the purple one. Chapter 2 is about fashion. So today we're going to talk about clothing. I personally am not very fashionable, so I think the exact title is of the chapter to make conversation is, are you fashionable? My answer is no. But that's not the question that I'm going to ask you, because I want to ask you open-ended questions that everybody can answer, no matter what their background or their interest. That's one of the things. There's different types of questions. Obviously, you can be asked if you're doing a presentation or having a conversation or in an interview, but all of the questions that I ask you are designed to be pretty flexible so that you can use your own words and answer with your own experience any of the questions that we are going to practice for the interview in the midterm. So my question is going to be, instead of are you fashionable, because you can just say yes I am or no I'm not, and then that's the end of the conversation. Instead, I'm going to ask a more open-ended question, like, what do you think about clothing, or what do you think about fashion? And you can take that question in many different directions, and that's why I'm phrasing it that way. So everybody's different. People wear different clothes for all kinds of reasons. The basic purpose of clothing is obviously to conceal our bodies so that we look better, and survival, because if you're cold, then you need clothing that keeps you warm. If you're out in the sun, you need clothing to protect your skin from the sun. So clothing is, at its very root, something that was invented for practical reasons and for survival. And human beings, we're not covered in hair anymore, although I do have quite a bit of hair on my arms. But most of us are fairly hairless, so especially if you live in a cold country or a very hot country, and you're not in a Mediterranean climate that's really comfortable all the time, or California, then you're going to have to wear heavy clothing to keep you warm, or clothing that blocks the sun from your skin. But clothing has evolved, and it's become something that signals things about a person. And some people don't care a lot about clothing, and some people care a lot. And you can explain to me what your opinion is in that area, from that perspective. My personal opinion is I don't care. I'd rather have cheap, functional clothing and less of it, if possible. But just like everyone else, sometimes I dress up in a suit, and although it's kind of uncomfortable, I do kind of feel better. That's why I wore a suit last week, because I wanted to demonstrate that I was serious, and that I wanted to show confidence. So I dressed up in one of my suits. I don't have very many, but I did that. Today I'm wearing something that I would normally wear, and I wore this shirt on purpose, because this is if you look at the logo here, this says McKay. This is my shirt from when I was a freshman, decades ago. I'm about twice as old as most of you, because you're in your early 20s, or maybe not even 20 yet. So when I was 19 years old, I got this shirt because this says McKay, and McKay is the name of my dormitory. Unlike Korea, or perhaps unlike your country, or maybe it's similar to your country, depending on where you're from, a lot of our activities and events and friendships that were formed in university revolved around dormitories. And as you know, coronavirus now has caused everybody to go home and study from home instead of having that environment. And I was just thinking when I was preparing for this, how different my life would have been if I hadn't have lived in McKay Hall for 1 year. Most of the friendships I still maintain from university are from the other students that I either lived with or lived nearby or in the same building. Those are the people that I still connect with and still converse with. I don't really have many friends that I'm close to from public school. It's my university friends. So this is a shirt that's literally 20 years old. I think that demonstrates how unfashionable I am, because fashion never stays still. Fashion is constantly evolving. And, you know, a shirt may have a certain style and then 20 years later become fashionable again. But that wasn't what I planned. I've just kept this shirt for 20 years. So what I'm wearing, this shirt is the same age as you. It's still in pretty good condition, surprisingly. On the back, if you probably can't read that very well because I don't have a full HD webcam, but I do have a better webcam than before, as you can tell. Written on the back is the names of every student that was on the same floor. I lived in the second floor, and every student's name or their nickname, including mine, is written on this shirt. So fashion, as you can already see, I'm demonstrating. When you do your answer for this question and you write it up like you have to do for every week and every chapter that we do, the question is, what do you think about clothes? If you chose to answer the question like me, you could talk about a shirt. This is not my favorite shirt, don't get me wrong. I don't wear this very often. It's just in the closet and it's there, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I remember when I was young and I was a university student and I had fun and free time, and you know, my whole life was ahead of me, and I put the shirt on like today, and it's because it helps me remember, and I like that. It's nostalgic, right? The word is nostalgia, which means to reminisce, remember things that are positive and help you remember things that are from your past. So this is a nostalgic shirt. You can choose clothing that has good memories. You know, some people love certain items like shoes or baseball caps or something like that, and they take really good care of them so that, you know, they do have pieces of clothing that last a really long time. One of the things I talk about in my British and American culture class to try and help students understand that things are different now than they used to be is the fact that British people used to just have one pair of shoes. Hundreds of years ago, having a good pair of shoes was the most important thing, because you only had one. Often they would spend a lot of their money on it, and they would be leather or something, like a material that would wear out very slowly, and they would keep good care of them, and they would never throw them out. They would just take them to a cobbler and have them, a cobbler is a shoe repair person, just like the Guru Byungwon, you know? In Korean, I guess that's shoe hospital. And you just take him to the Guru Byungwon, the shoe hospital, the cobbler in English, which is what we don't have cobblers anymore because we throw our shoes out. But they used to make them by hand, and then you keep that pair of shoes, and that would be the only pair of shoes you had. And if there's a hole in the toe, then you fix the toe. And if the heel got worn out, then you'd rip off the sole and get the shoe repaired. I think the coronavirus has shown us many things. One of them is that our society has become extremely consumer based. It doesn't matter what country you're from. If you're from a country that's less developed economically, then maybe you do keep things longer, which is good, I think, and you use used things more. But you know, it tends to be a thing that happens when you become a more developed economy, that people just buy more stuff, and when things get old, they just throw them in the garbage, and then they buy a new one. Like I don't even like shoes or, you know, care about what they look like very much. I go through 3 or 4 pairs of shoes a year sometimes, and I have soccer shoes, and I have hockey skates, and I have dress shoes, and I have running shoes, and I have regular shoes. Like even a person who doesn't think shoes are important might have 10 pairs of shoes. It's possible. Winter boots, rain boots. And if you ask somebody who loves shoes, which I do usually have this conversation in class and say, okay, how many shoes do you have? And usually the guys have less, not always. But I remember distinctly an upper year student, there's usually a difference. Freshmen have less shoes than seniors. There was a young woman who had so many shoes she didn't really know, but she guessed 50. You don't really need 50 pairs of shoes. But if you have 50 pairs of shoes, I guess you're a fashionable person. I don't know what the definition of fashionable is, but if you have 1 pair of shoes for every pair of pants and they always match, I assume you're a fashionable person. That's pretty extreme. But anyway, again, if you want to answer this question, if you want to talk about clothes and you say, I want to talk about clothes because I think people focus on clothes too much, and I don't like it, and I think it's stressful to dress up all the time and try and compete with other people's nice things. This is one of the arguments that Korean society and Korean education makes about the uniform thing is Korean students should wear uniforms in middle school especially and have similar haircuts, because then everybody looks the same and students don't have to spend money and parents don't have to spend money trying to make their kids look better than other kids, or they don't have to worry about their children going to school. And I remember when I was young, I played basketball, and some of the other students had, some of the other players in the basketball team had Jordans, Michael Jordan's Nike brand. It was Nike, and then he made his own separate, brand himself. So, those shoes were always, $200 or $250. The soccer shoe that I really wanted was it was an Adidas shoe called the Predator. Predator means hunter. I always wanted those shoes. I never got them because my father was not stupid. No, sorry, I shouldn't say that. My father didn't believe that it was necessary to buy a shoe that was so overpriced. But I begged him for basketball shoes, and then he bought me a pair of Iversons, which were named after one of my favorite players. So I loved my Iversons, and they definitely made me a better basketball player. That's the main thing. I don't know if the Jordans would have made me better or not. But, people get obsessed with these things. And when you're young and in middle school, or even in university, sometimes you feel like, oh, somebody has brand new, really cool clothes, and that could make you feel bad, or it could shake your confidence, or you could think better of somebody or less of somebody, which is wrong. But it's kind of human nature. So you can talk about how clothing shouldn't be that important because you don't like it that much and you think it's not a good thing. Or you can say the opposite. You can say, I think the clothes make the man, if you dress nicely and you care about your appearance and you work hard to cultivate some kind of, make an image to make yourself look better, and then you deserve for other people to treat you differently. And those opinions are always, fighting against each other. There's always tension between those ideas. So there's no, like I said before, there's not really a right or wrong answer, but you have to do the same thing that I'm doing. It's when you have an opinion, what you need to do is state your opinion and then explain to me why you think that. And if you can communicate, if there's a strong connection between your statement, just like in my writing class, I explained this week, in a sense, it's the same kind of thing, is you respond to the question with a statement and then you support what you say. And if the grammar and the pronunciation and the vocabulary is good, which I hope mine is as well, I can't really tell until I finish this video and look back to see how well I did. But if everything's well connected and organized, and you speak clearly so that I can understand what you're trying to say, then that means you're going to get a higher score on your interview. The scores are always relative to other students because we do operate with a grade curve. So the top 30%, the highest scores, will get an A. And then, there's a bell curve. So the middle portion of the class will get a B, and the lower portion, the lower 30%, will get a C or below. Hopefully not too many of those. But that's how Chungnam evaluates people, unless this semester they relax the curve because of our current situation. Again, I don't know about that, and I'll keep you updated as soon as we get information. So in terms of the textbook this week, there's a whole bunch of different, first of all, you need to know items. You need to be able to say shoes, shirt, pants, and so on, right? Like I have, talking about hats or gloves, or you need to know that basic vocabulary so that you can talk about different pieces of clothing. But probably all of you can do that already. I hope you can, because this is University Conversation 2, so you should be at that point at least. So you can go through that fairly quickly, and then after that, you need to talk about things like descriptive words that are adjectives. So what's the purpose? What's the purpose of clothing? I already mentioned a few things. It could be practical. It could be for survival, like we said at the beginning. It could be a uniform. Maybe you like clothing because you like costumes. I have friends back home that they go to, not right now because everything's closed, but they do what we call cosplay. Koreans are very familiar with this word, and if you're from Japan or another country that really loves that kind of stuff, it's almost like any day. But in North America, normally you have to go to like some sort of event based on that has a fan base. Like if you go to a Star Wars event, everybody dresses up like Star Wars characters. On Halloween, everybody dresses up as whatever they want. Traditionally, they would be scary monsters and stuff, but Halloween means you get to wear a costume, and whatever you want to be, you can be. And that's why everybody loves it. Comic-Con is probably the biggest organized event. They even have them in Korea if you ever, once things go back to normal, as we hope they do, if you ever want to check it out, people dress up as superheroes and, video game characters and stuff. I've actually been to a couple. So I didn't dress up because I'm a party pooper, but lots of people did, and there were some just amazing costumes. So talented, creative people. So that if you like that kind of clothing, you can talk about that. If you are into costumes, you can talk for 2 minutes about your costumes, no problem. Whenever I talk to my friend, she's a little bit older than me, she went to my university and worked with me, and when I was in college, whenever if you bring up the subject of costumes and clothing, she could talk for an hour, easy, without stopping. So, same thing. If you love shopping, you can talk about shopping for clothes. You can divide clothes by a category, like formal or informal, or casual, or, right? Semi-casual, or what is another good example? I had a few, I don't own one, but I rented a hanbok a few times, and hanbok is a traditional Korean, I don't want to say costume, it's a traditional Korean dress, which normally Koreans don't, some Koreans wear them, but it's not very common anymore. But if you go to, if you're going to a holiday, and doing Chuseok or Seollal, then you might wear one, or if you're going to a wedding, you might wear one for that. And I think you would categorize the hanbok as more of a ceremonial clothing nowadays. I've never seen a student walk into class wearing one, so only on special occasions. Like I said, if you're different, depending on your age, you probably dress differently. I'm proud to say that I'm dressed like this 20-year-old shirt. I'm pretty much dressed the same way I was. I look different, I've aged, but my clothing and my fashion remains the same. I am constant. That's probably not a good thing, but if you bumped into me in the year 2000, 20 years ago, you would have basically seen the same attire. Right, so there's an article for you to read on page 18, which is very helpful. It's descriptive. It talks about genes. The entire article just talks about genes, and it's definitely about a half a page in length. So, this is a good example of what you could tell me if I ask you this question. What do you think about clothes? Well, in general, I'm not a big fan of clothes, but the one thing that I really like, and I have a lot of, is jeans. And I like jeans too. I have 6 or 7 pairs of jeans, and most of them are really old. One of the benefits of wearing jeans is they're tough. They're originally used for, blue collar jobs. The jean material is very tough, so it wasn't a fashionable thing that people wore all the time everywhere. Jeans were clothing for working, like factories and mines and things like that. Farmers ended up using them after a while too. When I was working on a farm in high school, I used to wear jeans. It protected my legs from getting scratched by all the thistles and plants and grass, hay and straw and stuff like that. So anyway, they talk about jeans and where they came from and what's made of. The material is denim, that kind of stuff. If you learn something and you want to explain something, like I said, you don't have to memorize, but if you have certain words, like keywords, that you can build your answer around, that will be helpful as well. Also on page 20, there is a kind of a funny article. I'm also part Scottish, so my brother played the bagpipes, and I was always jealous because these things are actually really expensive. He has a kilt and he has this uniform. Some people think it looks more like a skirt, like a woman would wear, but I think it's fantastic. I'm always overheating when I wear long sleeves and pants and stuff, so I'd be happy just to wear some shorts and put a man skirt over top of it and then have a jacket. You could wear like a tuxedo on top and then have a skirt on the bottom. Everybody should do this. This is my opinion. I have a lot of Scottish blood. I do. English, Scottish, and Irish is pretty much my makeup. So I do like the sound of the bagpipes, even though some people think they sound like you're like, I don't know, torturing a cat and a goat at the same time. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I like the sound of it. And I think just like kimchi, it's an acquired taste. If you hear the bagpipes and it's played well, and you hear it a lot, and you grow up with it, you like it. If you hear it for the first time, you might be turned off a little bit. So they tell you a little bit about the Scottish skirt, which is called a kilt. And that's on page 20. Those are 2 really good examples of how to answer this question. Like I said, it's up to you. You choose something, an activity, an event, a perspective, or an example, and then you explain it to me in half a page, just like you did with the other assignments. And I'm going through the assignments very slowly because I have literally, by the end of the week, there'll be hundreds. So it takes me a while, but I promise the next video lecture and in the summary that I will sort of give you general feedback about the things that people are doing well and the things that people need to work on. It's not possible for me to respond to each one of you individually, but you have to listen to my advice from the video lecture and in the summary form, and that will be the way that you can improve yourself. Now, I will probably mention this a couple times. Make sure that you go through the CNU portal. Some students have subscribed to my channel, which I thank you for, and there's no advantage or disadvantage to doing that. Just subscribing to my channel helps me I guess, get more people to watch, which is good. I want people outside our class also to watch. So feel free to subscribe, and that will be sort of like helpful to me because I do have to pay for my website and my equipment and everything while I'm doing this. There are costs involved, but that's just a nice thing that you can do. It's not required, it has nothing to do with your grade. And even if you do subscribe, whether you do or not, just remember, you always have to log in through the CNU portal and then go to the link. If you go directly there, you don't get credit for your attendance. So please subscribe and watch whatever you want. I will probably start posting things that are not in your class so you can see all the things that I do. And you don't have to go through the portal to do that. But when you want credit for every week for the class time that you need to do to complete this class, you must go through the CNU portal and then use the link. Okay? That's my little speech. I'm planning, if we do get extended, everybody's saying that this situation is going to be extended. I have no idea if that's true or not, but the rumors are everywhere. So if this is extended, we will try and do a live broadcast. That's if we are delayed again and we start in May or something like that. I'm going to want to communicate with you directly in real time. So we will set up like a live lecture where I can talk, and it'll be difficult probably for you to talk back to me, but I'll set it up. I'm pretty technically savvy, so I will experiment with it in the next couple weeks once we find out that's happening, and then we will schedule a class where everybody logs in and everybody's in the chat room in the broadcast at the same time, just like they're doing for news and stuff these days with the politicians. We can do that too. So there's about 20 people in the class, a few more than 20, I think 22. And all of you will log in at the same time, and we'll all be in a group, and I will speak, and probably you'll be able to type in real time. You'll be able to type something because I won't be able to, really control 22 people trying to talk back to me at the same time. So I will talk to you, and you will be able to comment and chat at the same time. That's my idea. No promises, but that's my idea. But what I do promise is I'm going to do my best to deliver quality content to you this whole semester, no matter what happens. So if we are unable to talk face-to-face in the classroom, which is what we all want, then we'll set up a live chat and a real-time broadcast. Okay? So that's it for today. Please do this by Sunday night and make sure you get your credit. And I'll see you next week when we do week 4.